All right, Eric, how are you?
Good, man.
Good. I'm sitting with ET from Dirty Sue, and that is dirtysue.com. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic. Really excited to kind of jump in about the business and learn more about first starting off with the history of the brand and your inspiration, maybe a little bit about your background and how old paths led you to this brand and learn about basically everything we've done to get it to where it's at today and what we have in store for the future. So exciting one today. I'm personally a big fan of dirty martinis myself, so this definitely piqued my interest. I'm really excited to chat about this business and how it's been going. So, Et, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background professionally or as a founder, or kind of like anything that really led you towards this journey that you're on today?
Yeah, sure. So I come from even before, going to college, come from a little bit of an entrepreneurial background. My father had a small business, but he also always was trying to come up with a better idea, a better mousetrap. And as a kid, our whole family had a product that we put out in the world. So I got a little taste of being an entrepreneur as a, you know, growing up. And then I guess the bug was planted. So I moved out to LA after college and was working in the bar business. And, dirty martinis have always been a big thing. They've always been popular. So we would drain these gallon jars of olives of all the juice. And that juice is really just there to keep those olives from going bad. Never really was meant to be in a cocktail, but it was. People liked salty, briny, olivey martinis. So we would just drain these jars. And I remember working one night and we were pretty busy. And I had set up the bar, so I really only had myself to blame. So when we got hit mid shift and someone ordered a dirty martini, I went to the little squeeze bottle we had and it was empty. I went to the tray, the old school way to put your hand over it and just drain it. That was empty. So I go back to the jar, and the second jar we had was empty, just full of olives, no juice. So mid shift, I had to go get a third gallon, struggle to get it open. And while I'm making this drink that took forever when it should have taken about 40 seconds, I'm like, how has no one bottled olive juice yet? And as soon as that light bulb went off, um, the next time I got in front of a computer, I started looking up bottled olive juice and it didn't exist. And I started researching it. This is a long time ago. So the internet wasn't quite as fantastic as it is now for searching. And it's just a really hard time finding a farm or anyone that imported olives. I knew nothing about olives at the time other than they tasted good. So after about 6 months of searching, I was about ready to give up. And my very last phone number was this farm in California, Central California. And I called and they said, we have acres and acres of olives and we import Spanish and Mediterranean olives, come up. So I did. And they were great. They've been in business like 25 years at the time, family owned, family run. And I was able to develop the Dirty Sue recipe on their farm. And about a year later, I launched Dirty Sue.
Wow, that's cool. So yeah, just that spark being in the bar, it led to quite the journey that you just really kind of didn't give up on it. It
Yeah,
sounds like.
I a few times I was going to give up. I just thought if it was this hard to find anyone that had enough olives and olive juice that I could start making my own product with, if it was this hard to find, maybe that's why no one does it, right? But every time I got behind the bar, I'm like, how much easier would my life be if I could just put a pour spout on a bottle of olive juice that was better than what was in the jar? And that's kind of what kept me going. Like, there is a better way. There is a better way. Like, I just had to figure it
Hmm.
out. And when I finally figured it out and launched, I got a distributor immediately in Southern California. And I really thought, like, this is going to be the easiest thing in the world. I'm going to be an overnight success. And everything from that meeting on was uphill for a long time because, a lot of bar managers never bartended. So when you present them with something to buy, their knee jerk is, I get this for free when I buy jars of olives. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, if you get it
Right.
for free, how good is it? And what
Mm.
happens when you end up throwing away half that jar because they've all gone bad? And it never
Hmm.
really landed. I would just give out bottles. I'm like, you know what? Um, Here's a couple bottles. Give them to your bartenders. Let them try it. Let the guests see how they like it. And if no one likes it, don't call me. And nine times
Mhm.
out of 10, they would call me, hey, my bartenders want this. And I knew from being a bartender that I would have wanted it too. So I knew that's probably the best approach.
Yeah, just getting product in hands, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, because
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I've definitely done that a few times. I definitely used to pull the olive juice, and then I'm sitting with a bunch of olives I don't want, and it's like, just conceptually, it's such a waste. And yeah, definitely that thoughts popped to mind just for the convenience, but I can imagine busy bar,
Yeah.
you're making a few, especially I'm sure there's a ton of cocktail bars doing dirty martinis all night. I mean, you want that ease of use for a bartender too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, ease of use was definitely my way in the door. Being a better product kept me there. And then also over time, people realize it's pretty cost effective, right? So if somebody wants a classic martini, it's 100% booze, right? It's either vodka or gin. If you use vermouth and use a nice vermouth, it's as expensive as the vodka or gin. So your liquor cost on a traditional martini is pretty high. The minute you put Dirty Sue in that drink, you're lowering your liquor costs because the price of Dirty Sue is not nearly as expensive as the equivalent premium vodka, gin, vermouth. So, and I like to say, like, the dirtier you make your martini, the better your bottom line.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it too. And I'm sure that compounds over time. So yeah, so about a year, it sounds like recapping, like about a year in production, you were kind of figuring out this blend. Um,
Yeah. So once I found the farm and knew it was possible, then I started other pieces kind of. I didn't have my recipe yet, but I knew I was getting there. So I have a childhood friend I've known since, we were little kids, and he's a graphic designer. And at the time he had left his corporate job and was doing freelance. So he was working night and day on the design of my labels, my logo, all that stuff. So it would hopefully be timed that when we were ready to launch, I would have the labels done. And then it all kind of, came together. And being in LA, we decided we should have a launch party. So a buddy of mine who used to run the bar, he actually opened the bar where I created Dirty Sue. He had left to go open this bar, lounge, restaurant. Beautiful, beautiful space, indoor, outdoor. So had the party there, and had a big step and repeat, and through a lot of luck and circumstance, Christina Aguilera showed up to the launch party, and she got in front of the step and repeat, and obviously her pictures went more viral than my picture did, and it ended up everywhere. And I was so not prepared for the onslaught of calls and emails because I just
Amazing.
started. This is e-commerce was just starting out, so I had no way to ship people stuff. It was a real mess.
Mhm.
And I think
Give us a timestamp on all that.
2004.
Okay. Yeah.
So like I
And
would
for the listeners that don't know, what's a step and repeat?
oh, so that's like a big banner that as you enter an event, it has logos on it. So when people stand
Perfect.
there, um, and get their picture taken, you can see my logo or whoever party it is behind you, and hopefully that just helps promote your brand. You see it a lot at like Grammy parties, Oscar parties. You'll see all the
Definitely.
sponsors. But it was cool. It just, I was so unaware of how to do any of this stuff. So I didn't want people that call to not get Dirty Sue. So they would say, hey, how much for a case? And they were in Oklahoma. I was basically selling them a case of Dirty Sue for what my distributor in Southern California was selling it for. But I had to mail it, and it's 40 pounds a case, right? It's glass and
Yeah.
liquid. So it was terrible. Like I was just buying retail boxes and going to a retail UPS kind of store. And it was costing me over $100 to sell something for 75. And, that didn't last long as a business model. So there was a liquor store that was the first one to ever buy Dirty Sue for a store. And I knew they did a lot of online sales of wine. So very similar size and weight. And I called the buyer. I'm like, hey, can you let me know how, how do you do this? And he's like, well, have you negotiated your rates with your UPS rep? I'm like, I don't, I go to the store. He's like, how dumb are you? So, I called UPS, I got an account, I started figuring out rates. And then that guy also put me in touch with his box and packaging guy. So I was able to get things at, wholesale pricing. And now all of a sudden I could get it to people at a reasonable price and still make a little bit of money while I was figuring out distribution around the country. But it was
Yeah, I
not
think it's
easy.
so Yeah, no, I think it's so inspiring though for like founders, especially that are want to, kind of enter that CPG space or, have a product or something that solves a problem or just, you know, kind of following the trends of what's next in the kind of consumer space. And, it sounds like you really just went after it with a machete, and that means like chopping down the field,
Yeah.
just like what's next? What are we doing? Figuring this out really as you go. In those early days, did you have a partner? Did you have any funding? Like, I think that's like, there's so many, would you say kind of at the beginning, if you put it on a scale of, 0 being the start and let's call it, sure, we can call it 10 based on where you're at right now, just for relevancy. But like, would you say that 0 to 1's been the most challenging or like it kind of gets different as you go? But what really kind of kept you going, like with funding it, what to do next? Cause I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
roadblocks at the beginning that people have great ideas, but some of those roadblocks definitely trip up other founders, right? So, and just what were the biggest roadblocks and whether it's from funding or kind of trying to figure it out? And then, what allowed you to kind of just keep saying like, hey, we'll just figure it out and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, there's always challenges when you
Hmm.
own a company. The beginning challenges are how do you get to market? You also don't know. I'm Some people might, but I knew nothing about the world I was getting into other than I worked in a bar and I knew this product was something I would want. But in terms of even as a buyer, like I knew the distributors, but I didn't know how they worked and what happens once you get there. Like once they say, yes, we'll take your product, they have hundreds of sales reps. You just assume like, oh, wow, they're just going to be out there, you know, pushing my brand all over the world. But
Wearing your hats.
right. But what you forget is there's a lot of much, much, much bigger brands that are putting
Hmm.
pressure on these distributors. They're getting a lot more attention. So in the beginning, it was all tips. Like I was like, oh, make pretty good money at this bar. I can fund this, right? Because I already had an order. So once they paid for the order, I had some profit. But then you realize, oh, you want to do a trade show? 10 grand. You want to make t-shirts? More money. You want to make a website? More money. And all of a sudden tips weren't enough. So I got a couple investors early on. One was my parents, right? The easiest place to go for cash,
Angel
hopefully.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a couple college friends that, had been working in corporate America and doing really well for themselves. I didn't take that much money because I was a little bit unsure of the business model because no one did it before. So maybe there's still a part of my back of brain that said maybe no one does this for a reason. So I didn't want to go out and raise $2 million and then fall flat on my face and be like, sorry, right? So I took less money. I stayed at the bar. My literal first sales blitz, I had 10 bar friends meet me at my bar. I gave them all a case of Dirty Sue, 12 bottles. I gave them a list of bars around LA. And back then, you still had to pay meters with quarters. So I gave everybody a roll of quarters. And I said, hey, just go to the bar on your list. I put them all in one neighborhood and drop off a bottle. Tell them the guy at that bar created this and say, here's a free sample. And it's distributed by XYZ if you like it. And that was how, and then they got back and we went to lunch. And that was my first big sales push. And, but it kind of, before like social media and internet stuff, like that was people going, oh, wow, what's this? Oh, the guy at that bar? Yeah, yeah, this is his brand. What is it? It's this. And it kind of just caught on in LA, which is a good place to be to get something to catch on.
Hmm.
It's a pretty good test market. When you go to other markets and you're already doing well in one of the biggest cities in America, people are like, oh, well, if people in LA like it, we should get it, right? Because LA, New York, Chicago, San Fran, these are trend setting cities. So if you
Yeah.
do well in one of those cities, usually people want to see what's going on.
No, absolutely. And I think it's like even today, I mean, there's so many other, everybody's talking about how to build your brand before launching a product, doing that all on social media, being very online centric. But I mean, I don't think you can deny that if you were to kind of restart, even in 2026 and kind of following the same model, that it still holds value. It still holds weight. I mean, especially when you're getting a product to launch, I feel like you want it in people's hands. You want real time reactions. Like you got to just remove as much as your bias as possible, right? Or just as much as the personal, I think this is going to be something amazing. It's only really truly amazing till that starts to resonate across, the rest of the field. That's going to be like, yeah, we'll support this and build this brand up because it's also something we feel is amazing. And yeah, just, doing it scrappy. I like to call that kind of the guerrilla tactics
Yeah.
where it's like, get the friends together, get a roll of quarters, go get it in hands, build a bit of a case study and a bit of a buzz, and then amplify that out into new regions. Um, and so, yeah, what was it? You just mentioned that was 2004.
Yeah. So I launch party was July 2004. So this would have all
Yeah.
been probably happening late summer, fall of 2004. Um, and it's when I look back, I did realize pretty early on that bartenders like this product. And also being a bartender, I knew if bartenders like something, they push it. And if they're the ones recommending it, customers listen. If you walk into a bar and it's your favorite bar and that's your favorite bartender and you said, "Hey, what's good?" and he or she is like, "This is good," you're going to try it. And because there's a trust between you and the bartender. And
Hmm.
I knew like
They're
one of the
salespeople,
they are
basically.
I mean, in essence, they
Yeah.
are, and brands finally started realizing that, and that's why you saw like the elevation during the cocktail revolution in 2006, 7, 8, 9, when we started moving away from syrupy this and that to classic cocktails and handmade ingredients. It was bartenders leading the charge, and that's who you trusted, and that's who was able to say this is a good gin, vodka, rum, tequila, and it was great. But one of the early things that happened, I was behind the bar and a couple came in on a date and he ordered, I don't remember, old fashioned maybe, and she got a dirty martini. And, just walking through, I was like, "Oh, how are your drinks? Everything okay?" And she said, "This is one of the best dirty martinis I've ever had." And I just grabbed a bottle of Dirty Sue and I was like, "This is what we use." I wasn't like, "Oh, it's my brand." I was like, "This is what makes our dirty
Hmm.
martini special." And she goes, "That's so funny." I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "I was at a bar 2 weeks ago and I commented on how good my dirty martini was. And the bartender showed me the same bottle. And I assumed it was a friend's bar because it was still so early. I didn't really think my distributor had been doing much in the way of sales." I'm like, "Do you remember what bar you were at?" She goes, "I remember the bar and the bartender." And it was a bar in Riverside. And at the time I had never been to Riverside. So I definitely didn't know the place. And she's like, "His name was Matt, great bartender. The bar is called, whatever it was." And the next day I called the bar at like 5, which is like normally like setup time. I was like, "Hey, is Matt there?" Like, "Matt manager, Matt bartender." I'm like, Matt bartender?" And he gets on, I'm like, "Hey man, it's ET from Dirty Sue." He's like, "Oh, hey," like I was some big company,
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, I met one of your regulars last night and she commented on you showing my bottle. I just want to say thank you and tell you how much I appreciate it." And for years, every account that guy went to, he would call me or email me and be like, "Hey man, I left that bar, I'm at this bar. We carry Dirty Sue here. I'll never have it. I'll never go to a bar and not have it." And
Awesome.
I start realizing like relationships and building that trust with people and staying in contact as much as you can really helps build brands. It's not You can have a great product, but if no one knows or cares about it, it's not going to go anywhere. And my sales team was bartenders.
Yeah, for sure. No, and again, just being such a central place to talk about a product too and have it in their hands is, so it's kind of like the barbershop technique,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Everybody goes to the spot to get their hair cut. So it's like, if maybe you're running a clothing company, you want them wearing your gear.
for sure.
But yeah, okay, that's really great and such a awesome story about kind of like an organic word of mouth type venture and just sticking with it, right? Because it's been over 10 years now. So I'm sure like there's been a lot of challenges, a lot of wins. I mean, if we fast forward to where we're at today, like what does that look like in terms of diversification of sales channels? Like, are we obviously we're doing some stuff online now. I'm sure we're still in a ton of bars. I mean, I'd imagine across the country at this point, some retail stores, maybe online retail locations. Like, what does that split look like today, and how far has this come since giving quarters to your buddies?
Yeah, I mean, look, now all over the country, we're in national accounts, um, national account restaurants, national account, off-premise retail stores, lots of still individual couple owner bars around the country. And it's great. And it brings up other challenges, right? Because now I'm not managing one distributor in Southern California. I have distributors in states all over the country. I have salespeople,
Hmm.
online people, I have marketing and PR people, and we all have to stay focused on what the goal is and keep Dirty Sue as authentic as it started while still growing. And I'd say now, when I launched, I come from bars. I saw the problem in bars. I didn't really think about consumers. And then when we started getting some press, the first one of the first emails was a woman that said, "Hey, I had the same problem at home. I have 5 open jars of supermarket olives and I poured all the juice out. How do I get Dirty Sue?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that was a thing at home." So we started making a retail size. And I would say now it's probably 60-40 on premise bars and restaurants to stores, but that number is probably growing the fastest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's kind of like your push or I mean, 2004 to like, we could talk some numbers too, or maybe like shout out some names for listeners to where they could pick up your stuff. But like, what are some of the biggest retailers you're in right now?
Yeah, I mean, Total Wine, we're about to launch Kroger supermarkets in California and then hopefully start spreading that across the country. If you're in Florida, we're in all the ABC stores. You can go to any Cheesecake Factory and get a Dirty Sue Martini, go to Mastro Steakhouse and get a Dirty Sue Martini. Um, the Cameron Mitchell Group, if you're up in the Ohio area, they have tons of cool restaurants. So we're growing. PF Chang's,
Sweet.
we're getting there. I mean, there's still a lot of runway, don't get me wrong. I'm a
Hmm.
lot of places, Dirty Sue's doing really well, but when I look at all the places we're not, I'm like, I still have a lot of work to do.
Great.
But we're getting there. And it's just still fun, because it's still new to a lot of people. And it's I think once you get to a certain level of success and you have to just keep yourself there, it becomes like, I guess that becomes just a daily grind. Where for me, every day is still like new and exciting. And I'm talking to different people and opening up different markets and different channels. And online just keeps booming and booming and online keeps evolving. So it
Hmm.
becomes a better and better channel to get to people, especially if you live somewhere that unfortunately doesn't have Dirty Sue right now. Online shrinks the world.
Totally. Yeah. So I mean, that's a really good segue into kind of like this online look, and the power of e-commerce, and exactly right, like the ability to really shrink the world, and just realizing as a founder, like how powerful it can be to have a funnel
Yep.
that generates a return. For so many reasons. Obviously, we just want that to be profitable so we're not burning cash, but to create a foundation of, like sustainable, predictable growth that you're really fully in control of in-house.
Yep.
Again, if you're working with a team, I still mean in-house in the sense that, you've got eyes on that every single day. You can see the data that's coming through. Like, how much of a unlock so far? Because I know, when we can maybe just talk about this, like when was that shift? Because it sounds like, hey, we're in bar-centric, like, and that was really where the product
Right.
thought it was going to live. And of course, naturally, like into retail. And now it sounds like, we can call it the third phase is really like more so online and going D2C. So really the first time like dealing with the customer direct for the most part.
Yeah, it's so Amazon was the first, besides my
Right.
website, which, at the time was doing okay, but
Yeah.
Amazon,
And you want it there anyway.
yeah, I started on Amazon when they were
Smart.
still so small that someone at Amazon called me and said, "We want to carry your product on Amazon."
When was that? What was, like, timestamp that?
Before 2010, I would
Okay.
say 6 or 7 maybe. I mean,
Okay,
like
cool.
someone from Amazon called, I'm like, "What?" And because I'm glass and liquid,
My name's Jeff.
yeah, right. And Exactly. So, uh, I had to develop special packaging for Amazon because it was glass. They didn't want it was harder for them with their warehousing and all that stuff. So, like, I had to ship them packaging samples to my point person to get it approved. And then we finally got it approved, and they were really helpful back then and
Hmm.
got it on, and they would, um, really guide me on what to do. And then the two women that were like my point people left to become brokers for other companies to help them navigate Amazon. And then they got the company that they got bought, and then they were too big for me. So then I was kind of like left on my own on Amazon, and Amazon had grown quite a bit as well. And I'm like, I don't have time to manage Amazon. Like,
Hmm.
it wasn't enough of my sales to devote as much time as I was giving it compared to other places. And then I got this random call from these two guys, these two brothers in Louisiana. And they were like, hey, we're buying product from one of your distributors and selling it, but they never have enough in stock for what we need. And I was like, what do you need? And the guy's like, I mean, this is northern Louisiana. So my distributor had three offices. So like New Orleans did a lot of volume, but they were north.
Hmm.
They're like,
Hmm.
we'd love to start with a pallet. And that division was only buying like at the time 30 cases at a time. I'm like,
Hmm.
these guys want to buy a pallet. I'm like, okay. Right. So then like 2 months later, they wanted two pallets, then they wanted five, then they wanted 10. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And turns
Yeah.
out they had a business where they were buying quality products, and
Hmm.
they had an Amazon store.
Hmm.
And when I started doing the math
Hmm.
of the profits I was making selling to these guys
Hmm.
versus running my own Amazon store, which I was still doing, I'm like, it's almost the same profit because my shipping rates were terrible compared to theirs, right? For getting fulfilled by Amazon when I was actually shipping product.
Right.
And my cost of materials was high. My cost of labor was high. The warehouse I was renting was a lot. And I was like, why don't I just let you guys run my Amazon business? Like, great. So fast forward, I don't know, 12, 14 years, these guys
Hmm.
do 100% of my fulfillment for everyone.
Amazing.
Amazon,
Amazing.
Walmart, all my distributors. I ship truckloads of my product to their warehouse, and then they run, like, together we oversee it, but they're really the team that does it on all the Amazon storefronts. And it's been great because they really know what they're doing. I know what I want. They know how to make it happen. And we're both able to make money. So it's a win-win for everybody. And we've
Hmm.
grown. They're in their third warehouse.
Wow.
So they started, I think it was like, I don't know, 5,000 square foot warehouse. And now they're in like 40,000 square feet on 5 acres so they can keep growing. And, they represent obviously other brands besides me, but we've grown a lot together. And it was really like a great fortuitous relationship that I found because they're great guys and they do really well by my business, and I try to do well by them. So it's been
Hmm.
it's been great. So I can
Yeah, I think that's
focus.
such a
Yeah,
yeah, just again, it's like you're the architect, right? So you're like, okay, great, we can set that up. I can go focus on what's next, and
right.
you can definitely wear so many hats if you want to get this thing bigger than yourself. So, and it's such a great like lesson too. I think for anyone kind of doing this is like, you don't need the perfect roadmap or all the connections before you go execute on it. It's more about being able to, take advantage of the opportunities when they come to you too. Like identify
Yeah.
that, hey, there's something here, and maybe that's not what our plan was originally in terms of working together, but hey, can I put them in charge of all of my distribution? And that sounds like something that just really happened organically. Like you identified good operators and said, hey, how big can we build this out? And, it's just, okay, what's next? And how do I take advantage of great opportunities? And I think for any brand to grow for years and years, it's really what it's all about. Nobody's going to have the perfect playbook, right?
No.
Maybe if you were to run a brand round two, I'm sure you could get a new product to the growth that it's at now in probably a shorter period of time, but that's for a lot of factors. In terms of like how much has changed from 24 until 26, but 2004 to 26, but I'm sure even just running it back, you'd be able to some learning experiences, and you can implement that and move quicker. But it's really, It's not relevant to time. It's just about capitalizing on opportunities when they come
Yeah, and you're
and implement.
also, no matter when you start, look at any founder that's done well, sold his or her company and started a new
Yeah,
company. There's no
yeah,
guarantee that next company is going to strike gold twice. There's so many
not at all.
factors. And even if you know more and maybe don't make some of the same mistakes, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean, it's going to be a home run again. And
Hmm.
there's, I think the only thing you can guarantee is you're going to have problems, right? And it's just how
Yes,
you
for
deal
sure.
with those problems.
Yeah.
Like if they derail you, I remember the first, like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. My distributor in California, um, I had just shipped them a new pallet, and that liquor store that helped me out with my online shopping called me and they said, "Hey, we just got our new case and your olive juice looks different." I'm like, "What do you mean different? Like, it's dark." I'm like, "What do you mean dark? Like, it looks like iced tea or Coke. Like, it's not, pretty much transparent." I was like, "Well," so I got in my car. They're about an hour from me, and I, raced out there and I looked, and it looked wrong. So I gave them a case. I brought a case with me, and I gave them a case, swapped it out, and then I was like, "Oh shit!" Like my distributor probably has a whole pallet of this.
Yeah.
So I called the farm, and I'm like, "Hey, you know, what the what? Like, what happened?"
Yeah.
And
Where's the quality control?
they were like, "We're not sure, but we'll send a new pallet tomorrow." So they swapped out the pallet within 48 hours. So like, and then when I called my distributor to tell them this was going to happen, the guy's like, "Hey, I'm going to fax." This is how long ago it was. It's like, "I'm going to fax you an authorization. We'll put this in our destruction warehouse." I'm like, "You have a destruction warehouse?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not the only person that's ever, had something that needed to be, disposed of." So kind of like, all right, so I'm not the only bad guy. And it turns out it was human error. Someone left the lid
Yeah.
off the drum and air got in and it
Okay.
oxidized. Um, and 3 years later, I get a call from the same distributor and like, "Hey, we have this pallet here that's bad." I'm like, "Again?" Like and
Yeah.
I guess my signing that destruction never got to that department. So it's just been sitting in that section this whole time. So I had to go down there and sign it. When I got down there, it was the funniest thing. It was this whole giant room in this, ridiculously giant warehouse where there'd be like a famous vodka with upside down labels or, this brand with the wrong color caps or whatever it was. And I was like, all right, so now it's not just me. People,
Yeah.
things happen, you just deal with it.
For
And
sure.
you can't control a lot of what's going to happen. You only control how you deal with it. And if you just take a breath and realize it's not the end of the world, it's usually either going to cost you money or cost you time, but you'll figure it
Hmm.
out. You just
Hmm.
move on. If
Amazing. Yeah.
and that's just, and even like, look, we got through COVID and all the struggles with um, so much supply chain for everybody. And most businesses got through it. And it was just, all right, we have a new challenge. What are the options to solve it? And
Hmm.
it really just came down to that. Like, yeah, there's
Hmm.
always like that first day or hour, 10 minutes or 1 minute, depending on your personality, where you're like, fuck, right? And then you're like, all right, now that I've cried in the corner, what do I do? And there's always an answer, right? It's
Yeah.
never not an answer,
Yeah. And you get used to that. You get used to the fact that there's going to be something. And then, yeah, I think as a great operator, it's kind of staying level through the highs and the lows, right? Okay, the wins are good, but it's all part of the process. Ideally, we're learning more from the bad things too, just as much as we're celebrating our wins and just keeping that steady hand across it all, right? Letting everything compound and not getting so caught up on the day to day.
for sure.
Yeah, that's really good, valuable advice too. And so, yeah, again, like now pivoting into today, back to that and where we're at with that split on distribution and how people are finding you and how people are buying, like where are you at currently? And if you've got this, like you said, e-commerce is shrinking the world, like what are some of these goals that you have for the next couple of years? Maybe now we just look at it as like revenue splits, right?
Yeah.
That pie that is Dirty Soup, like how much effort is going into the growth of all these different sales channels you have? I mean, obviously there's effort into all of it, but I mean, like, are you looking to shift that pie at all? Are you seeing some real kind of exciting opportunities with the online sales?
Yeah. I
What
mean,
is the
online
future
just,
hold for Dirty Sue?
online just keeps becoming a bigger and bigger piece of everyone's pie. And,
Hmm.
but like, I've seen brands do this a lot where this is the new exciting thing, and then all resources go here. But
Hmm.
what happens is you take resources away from somewhere else to go here, and those channels dry up. And having seen some brands do that erroneously, I'm like, all right, yeah, online is a thing, but it's a third of my thing, right? I still have retail, which is a huge thing, and I still have on-premise bars, restaurants, hotels, you know, which is a huge thing. So I can't touch any of those resources. If my sales team is going into bars and restaurants, they can't be online salespeople. They have to stay focused on what they do. And if I have an off-premise sales director that's talking to big national chains, that's all that person should be doing. They shouldn't be splitting
Correct.
their
Yeah.
time. So now I've created a third division, which is online. I
Hmm.
started
Hmm.
um, finally. I mean, I was probably a little. I'm not probably. I was behind the curve. But when you're an owner operator, I only have so much of my pie. So it wasn't until I hired other people that I could say, all right, where else am I deficient? And it was online.
Yep.
So I hired a, you know, paid ads company to really dissect where I should be, what kind of ads, what I should be doing. And that was probably the end of last summer.
Hmm.
And it's been great. Like the growth, the impressions, the new customers, the rebuys from these new customers has been really good. And that spawned me. We were kind of running my socials in house. And while some of the content was great, there was no plan, right? It was just
Hmm.
like, oh, fun thing to post, but zero plan, zero schedule, zero. Why are we doing this? What's the achievement we're trying to gain from this? So now I just went through a process of RFPing a bunch of social media companies and settled on one. And, we're just now putting our first schedule together of what we're trying to say and how do we keep it Dirty Sue while still being fun and relevant for
Yeah.
people that never heard of us. So it's
Yeah.
exciting to go into that brave new world that people have been doing for the past 15 years, right? Like I'm finally
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
there.
No, and I think there's a really good lesson in there too. Like, and again, on my side, as well as chatting with great founders, we run a performance marketing agency as well. And a lot of like, so we're really in that world. And when we're speaking with brand founders and owners, like, or heads of marketing or whatever that role might be, that's really in charge of ensuring that their brand's performance marketing online, driving sales onto their store does really well is, even within marketing channels too. And you're kind of maybe a little bit of a bigger thought here, but it's like really focus on your compounding verticals and what you're good at. And like, make sure you get that to a point where it's like, I can actually now go not only hire someone who's more of an expert at me in a new realm of my business, but bandwidth too. Because if you're, if you're pulling from something that's working, like the metaphor I like to look at is like watering your fruit plants until they actually bear fruit. And those fruit plants can be sales channels. And if you're like, I want all three right now, it's like, well, your watering can doesn't hold enough water. So you're going to have all these like stunted trees or these stunted sales channels. And it's really like focus on one vertical, scale that up, deal with the challenges that come with a single channel till that is sustainably bearing the type of fruit where you could take that seed and plant the next channel
Yeah.
and then plant the next channel. And then even within performance marketing, it's like, I'd imagine what you guys are doing, we can touch on that real quick, but it's like really probably a focus on Meta and Google, which are truly the main arteries of driving traffic to a Shopify store, right? And you mentioned it, you touched on it, repeat customers and being able to own that data too. That's what's so unique to something like Shopify versus the other online sales channels. Amazon, great spot to start because again, there's a lot of that fulfillment's dealt with. You've got the high intent purchasers coming. You're building up that organic presence on a channel like Amazon. So it compounds over time, but owning that email,
Yeah.
owning that customer data for a brand that's consumable is that you really need to have that mindset going into it too, that it's like, hey, we might not be getting the best returns compared to other sales channels early, but as soon as we start going 3 months, 6
Yeah.
months, 12 months into this, and we see that lifetime value of a customer and it's something we can open up and dissect and see how we can improve that as well. You know how there's a single customer that bought in January that is worth $1,000 to you by the end of December, and
Right.
there's nowhere else you can track that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then,
No.
so, Google Meta, and then, okay, once those are really profitable, solid channels, where else can we go in that realm driving traffic to our store? But again, careful on the shiny object syndrome within, like, how are we driving traffic to the store too, right?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, you have to win before you move on. And the easiest example of that is Tito's. They have
Hmm.
one vodka, no, it's just one product. That's it. And they've done nothing since they launched until this year or the end of last year different. And that once they conquered vodka and conquered the spirits business in the US, they're the biggest selling spirit in the United States, bigger than any other brand. And all they did was Tito's, no flavors, no nothing. And then end of last year, they bought a really small quality tequila brand that only has one SKU. They don't have Reposado, they don't have Añejo, it's just a Blanco tequila. And now they're going to grow that. So like that's, and they took all the Tito's money to help build this tequila. Now, if they would have done it all in the beginning, like a lot of people do, oh, wow, I want to start a distillery. We're going to do vodka, gin, rum, tequila. Like that's a lot to handle,
Yeah.
and it's really difficult to do one thing great, let alone six things great. So I think you're right. When you have a channel like me in bars, let that work. Let that make me some money. Let me take that money, keep building that channel, and now take a little bit over here to a new channel. Let that channel win, and now take some of this money and some of this money and go to that channel. And, otherwise you're constantly broke. You're constantly freaking out. And, you want everything now, but the reality of it is it's better to build a solid foundation and grow something that can grow as tall as you can grow than only be able to grow this tall and then you peter out because you've done too much.
Yeah, because you wanted the next
Yeah.
exciting new fruit tree
Yeah.
before it was time, right? And so again, then, yeah, definitely velocity, like maybe new marketing channels or new opportunities. Like, sure, there's something to that, being an early adopter or something for sure, but not at the expense of the growth of the rest of the business. And so, it's just to touch on like, hey, we're getting into e-commerce late, but it's like, that's fine because you're coming at it the right way. And actually like how you execute on that channel versus like, oh, we should have been here 10 years ago is more important.
Yeah.
And having all the right kind of tools, teams, resources, ability to put cash into spend. So you're not like, hey, I got 30 days, like,
Right.
can we do this on a performance deal? It's like, if you're starting out like that, it's just, you're already setting yourself up for disaster. You need to find the right team, invest in it, build that funnel that generates that
Yeah.
result. And that takes time because your first 90 days, like you're investing in data. You're
Yes.
investing in, we build the funnel. Now let's see how it performs. And ideally, you've got the right team that's like, okay, check. Like we got something performing here. The creative website could use some work, right? We need that AOV up to
Right.
really like be able to afford meta ads. Okay, let's get to work on that. And so like a couple quarters is where you should be expecting like, all right, now we've built something insane. We built something where I put $1 into it. I got 4 out.
Right. Yeah.
Let's unlock, like, let's scale that,
It's
right?
hard to think like that. For a lot of people, when you don't have the funding, you only have this much money. And
Oh yeah.
when I open a new market and they always ask me, what's my plan to success? Like, what's my plan to win in this market? I always tell them it's a long-term plan. Like, I don't expect to come into a state I'm not in yet and start making a ton of money month one. Like, I don't mind breaking even or even losing some money in the very beginning of a new market because it takes money to let people know I'm here. And then once they know I'm here and they like the product, 6 months down the road, I'm crushing it. A year down the road, I don't even remember that money I lost those first few months because now I've built a plan and relationships, and they see me as someone here to stay, not just like, oh, I hope I do well right now or I'm done. And it's difficult to think like that, but any successful business, any Apple, Amazon, like they all lost money.
Yeah.
Right? They
They
all
burn
lost
forever.
money. It's part of the business plan. Like you have to spend money to make money, as cliche as that is. Um,
Yeah.
And in the beginning for me, it was really difficult because I was spending all my money. And then, I finally raised a little bit of capital, but it was enough to get me to the next level where I could generate the income I needed to grow the business. And yeah, you can always look back. It's so easy now and be like, man, if I would have raised $1 million, I could have been so much further along. If I would have done this, I could have been, what's that going to get me? Right? Like
Yeah.
nowhere. I can do it
Yeah.
right
Maybe.
now. And in a year,
Yeah.
be saying, thank God I did it last year. Cause now look at me.
Exactly. There's no time like the present, and there's no sense in dwelling on it. And ultimately, like as an entrepreneur too, you have a whole new relationship with cash, which is it's a tool. And when it's a tool, it needs to hold no emotional value. But it's fair. If your cash is holding emotional value, it might mean that, hey, this isn't the type of runway that I need to maybe go in and treat it as a tool, which is AKA have no emotional attachment to like what I'm going to invest in this. Right. And if you're like, oh, it's another dollar, another dollar going
Right.
out, where's my return? You're probably not ready for that new vertical or that new sales channel or whatever it might be just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and real quick now, like talking about your performance marketing channels that are driving traffic to your store. Right? And you mentioned you just got started with a team. It's been going well since the end of summer. Like, what's that progression been like? What channels are you guys on? I mean, what type of piece of pie are we taking now? And working with the team, what's the goal for 2026?
Yeah. I mean, it's I- for me, the only way for me to track real success is, you know, this month last year, I did this much in sales, right? And now using them, I'm doing this much in sales. So that's like a very easy way. It's not perfect because other factors could have increased that sale, but when they can back it up and show me, hey, these are all the new sales from these ads on these channels, like, oh, and they can show you it costs this much money to get Joe Smith to buy 4 bottles of Dirty Sue. And your first, I think every new client's knee jerk reaction is, wait, you're telling me it cost me $25 to lose, $18? And like, yeah, just pump the brakes, right? Give it some time. But you see in 6 months, well, that Joe Smith, now his second order was this much and his third order was this much. Now I only spent a tiny bit to get Joe Smith, and Joe Smith has spent this much money. And who knows who else Joe told about Dirty Sue? Who knows who went to Joe's house for a party and discovered Dirty Sue? So when you can start to see that, you're like, all right, this is working. And then it's a lever, right? So right now I'm only putting this much pressure on the lever and I'm getting this much success. I start
Mm-hmm.
putting that much pressure and the success goes up. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you see the success of spending some of that money, right? That tool, once you use that tool to grow and you keep using more of it and you keep growing faster, it's like, why wouldn't I be doing this? Right. Now, if you're spending all this money on a channel and they're not really monitoring and you're not really growing, you're not using the right team, right? If
Yeah.
you can't see where it's not working, like, hey, maybe we're crushing it on this platform, but not this platform. Let's bring down the spend here until we figure out what we're doing wrong over here and pump up over here while that's working. And then maybe try something different over here. I'm like, oh, that was what we needed. And now, it's a game, really. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I pull the right things, press the right buttons, say the right words to get people to respond? And ultimately, you can use the internet to get attention very quickly. But if people don't like what they gave their attention to, they're not coming back. So
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, the beginning of anything, you have to start with something you believe in and you think people are going to believe in, that's quality. Because
Great
if
product first.
if
Yeah.
anything in this market that I've seen, especially in my world, which is, you know, restaurants, bars, alcohol, the the push towards higher quality products is really what consumers are wanting. When I
Mm-hmm.
first started bartending, we're using bottled mixes for everything. You want a watermelon drink? Here's a syrupy, disgusting watermelon liqueur. Now you want a watermelon drink? Here's watermelon that we're going to
Mm-hmm.
juice or muddle or make our own homemade syrup out of. So the customers are demanding more at bars. They're demanding more from manufacturers. They know more. Think about like the food revolution in the 80s, starting with like, Julia Child, then Emerald, and then Wolfgang Puck. Like, we didn't know how to shave truffles on mac and cheese, right? We just got a box and added water. But then you start reading books and watching these shows, you're like, I can make that. And that's what
Hmm.
happened in the bar world. Like, you just
Hmm.
thought making an old fashioned was something a bartender knew how to do. And then you're like, oh, it's pretty easy. And now
Yeah,
I can make
cocktail revolution.
my own family secret recipe with, muddled peaches and, whatever tincture I made. And because of that, they don't want to go into a bar and get something that they could do at home better. Right.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, you really that kind of specific world and that craft has really come to life in homes, right?
Yeah.
So again, like you said, as that continues to become the norm, I'd imagine COVID, post COVID too,
Yeah.
then the website's only going to pop. So I guess the goal for 26 with Dirty Sue Online is just more of what's working, right? Increasing
Yeah.
budgets and scaling and
For sure.
moving.
Definitely online. That is the goal, is keep
Yeah,
monitoring what works and put more resources behind what works, and then fix what's not working until it works, and pull the plug when it doesn't, and just switch gears, because we've gotten far enough in the world that we know it works. And now we have to figure out how it's going to work for your brand.
yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like there's an exciting 26 ahead.
Yep.
Around the corner and a new channel that's really building and growing strong and with some great leadership behind it. Where can people find you again? What's the website?
DirtySue.com. And
ET, it's been a pleasure, man. This is a great chat. Love to hear the story. I think so much valuable information for our listeners to take in terms of just growth and ownership and believing in your product. And if you really think there's something out there that, hey, listen, like I know this would solve a problem. I know I love this. Like get it into the hands of friends. Just take that next step and then that next step and that next step, and you're building your dream. So, ET, pleasure, man. Real
thank you. I really
pleasure.
appreciate having me on. It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Talk soon.